Hey YouTube, Tire Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully you guys are doing well. This one we're going to be taking a look at the January outlook and also highlighting what lies ahead here on the path to New Year's Eve. So buckle up because this could be a long one. I don't really think it will be. I'm going to go on a whim now and say maybe 20-minute long video, but we'll see what happens. Before I get into it though, been liking what I've been doing lately. Definitely get more people to subscribe to the channel. It's been a great year, but we got a lot planned for 2023. There should be a poll on here very shortly in regards to a couple of things I have planned here. Just kind of wanting to know my audience's thoughts on them. That being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So of course, since we're so close to the first weeks of January now, in the new year, we're going to be looking at the temperature outlook, and there's a lot of great news. There's a lot of great news to be had here. So simply put, eastern half of the country, we've just went through probably one of the coldest time spans around Christmas within the last 3, maybe 4 decades. Well, just as quickly as that cold shot came in, we're now going to be on a very nice warming trend. A lot of places have a high confidence of being above average, which I'm sure a lot of people are happy about, myself included. And I'm actually someone who normally likes a little bit cooler weather, maybe 40s and 50s, but once you start getting into the teens and single digits, I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And don't even get me started on the wind chills. That was awful. But this will be a welcome sight for a lot of you. Only spot that's going to be below average is towards the southwest. It's mainly going to be towards the desert parts of Arizona, some parts of New Mexico, mainly towards western New Mexico. Southern Nevada is actually going to be a little bit cooler than average. In fact, there is a setup to where there even could be a pathway for a few snow showers in some of these regions that aren't used to it. And then the same can be said for parts of Utah and some parts of even central California. This will be mainly towards the Sierra Valleys, but anywhere that's like further towards the coast, it'll just be colder than average. Nothing like what we saw over here though. So you guys should be good. But that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the 6 to 10 day precip, and it's going to be a very active start to the month. A lot of storm systems are going to be running right through here, and as a result, most of the country is expected to get above average precip to start the year. Only place that may see below average is a tiny little portion of northern Montana where it could be dry. But even so, this area will still see a little bit of action in its own right. But this is only from the timeline of New Year's Day to the 5th. So, of course, one storm system could render all of that meaningless. Let's go ahead and look at days 8 through 14. That warming trend is still continuing on in the southeast, in the eastern half of the country, especially towards the northeast, excuse me, and even around the western half of the country, towards the coastal parts of the west, especially towards the northwest more so, I would say. There's even a chance of a little bit of a warming trend going on there too. So, and other than that, really the cold area is in the same spot, maybe a little bit more expansion through Nevada, but beyond that, nothing really different within the first 9 to 10 days of January here. Let's go ahead and look at days 8 through 14 on the precip. Precipitation activity does seem to die down just a little bit. A lot more areas are looking like they're still going to be at equal chance for an above average or below average week on precipitation. The only area that may see below average is over towards southwestern Texas. Nothing too far out of the normal for you guys. You tend to be pretty dry during the winter, so this is not the most surprising thing in the world, but there's not super high confidence on this either. So you could very well end up seeing an about average or just slightly below average precipitation over here. The main points of interest as far as precip is concerned is going to be over towards the Appalachian Mountains towards the east, and towards the west it's going to be mainly the southwest, especially towards California here. This is great for these areas because some of these areas get affected by wildfires. Other areas have had big snowfall deficits in years past, and this is kind of making up for some of that, so that's great news for them. So now that we've looked at the first week, let's go ahead and just look at the month as a whole and get an idea of what we can expect here. So this is the entire January monthly outlook. The below average temperatures are going to be most concentrated towards the northern tier of the country, mainly towards Montana, both the Dakotas, Minnesota, and small portions of Wyoming. Above average temperatures will be more likely to exist around California, southern plains, and the eastern half of the country, especially through most of the eastern seaboard. This is where the highest confidence is for above average temperatures. And then if we look through Alaska, wow, I can't believe I messed that up. When we look through Alaska, towards the coast, it looks like we're dealing with above average temperatures being a real possibility, especially as we get more towards the islands, or this little chain of islands. I guess you would call them that. I don't know for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then there's a small portion as we get closer towards Canada where we're looking at more below average temperatures. And when we look towards the precip, we actually can clearly see where our battle zone is going to be. Somewhere around here. Anywhere north of where this little ridge is right here and trough, that's where the highest likelihood of precipitation is going to exist, mainly rendered more towards the northern tier of the country. Big area of interest looks to be Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, and then over towards the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. That's another area of interest. It does tend to get pretty active around this region during this time of year, so I'm not surprised here. Same can be said for this area. With the jet stream being more active and sometimes usually retreating a little bit more to the north during this time of year, this area does tend to be neglected more when it comes to precipitation. So southwest Texas, parts of New Mexico, not surprised to see lack of precipitation. And the same can be said for the desert southwest. Florida gets a little bit more inactive as well, but usually not by this much. We'll see what this entails. Usually if it's inactive in this month, usually by February or March, things start to pick back up down here. But anywhere outside of both of these areas, you have an equal chance of either or outcome occurring. So let's go ahead and look at our weather pattern here. Another thing to note is that there's a very active pattern that looks to be going on here. Hang on a minute. I have something wrong. There's something wrong with this. I don't know why we are all the way back on the 24th with this. It's an easy fix though. So this is our most recent model. Now that we got that squared away, let's get back to where we're supposed to be. This is what we're dealing with right now. We have our clipper system that's bringing in some unexpected snow showers for some, especially over towards the south. And we'll move this along. We'll watch this clipper move through on Tuesday morning. By this point, though, a lot of the eastern half of the country is going to start to warm up above freezing, especially towards the southeast. And then as we draw towards the new year, the stage will start to be set for a storm system to roll through. We can almost see somewhat of a warm sector beginning to develop here. Here's our big storm system here. We'll have to watch this for the potential of severe weather, especially as this drags forward. Not much cold air to go with it, so this may very well limit a lot of the severe potential in regards to instability. But there is a little bit of a dig here with the trough. Not a super strong one, not a super robust one, but there is something there. And I think the fact that this isn't a super strong trough will be the limiting factor. However, this does have the look of a small scale snowstorm, maybe over towards the northern tier of the country heading into the Great Lakes. Definitely not what we're wanting to see there because we've already been inundated with snow in these regions. Then over towards the 30th, we have this shortwave piece of energy that's coming in, expecting to cause some disturbed weather, mainly just showers and thunderstorms. Few could be severe, but likelihood of it's relatively low, mainly towards this further portion of the south here where the cursor is, towards maybe South Georgia, South Alabama, and Florida. Maybe we'll have to watch for some severe potential there. Our next piece of energy is right here, though, in southern Texas, and that's going to be an area of interest because this will bring unsettled weather on New Year's Eve, so this could mess up your holiday weekend for some of you guys. And then we'll have to watch and see what this ends up doing, because over towards this region here, that's where it seems like there's going to be a bit more of a warm sector. Cold air is lagging behind this a bit too much to really be a snow system. I'm definitely leaning towards a severe weather threat, if anything, on this. Nothing on a large scale, though, it looks like. That low does look like it tries to strengthen right around here, so we're going to have to watch these regions, see what ends up happening with that. But really, I don't expect much. And then this will be getting into the start of January at this point. Another big system comes in. At this point, the Southwest is really getting inundated with rain, snow, all sorts of assorted precipitation. And as we roll this forward here, this one looks a lot more robust than the last couple of systems. Threat of severe weather is a lot more prevalent to me on this as well. It's a deeper push of cold air too, and there's a nice little warm sector out ahead of it. So this is towards the 3rd, 4th. I'm gonna mark that day because that could be interesting. I'm thinking this could be an Ozark, Mississippi Valley type severe event possibly. We'll just have to see how that develops. Next system here draws a little bit more cold air further south from the looks of it. Another big warm sector out ahead of it, but it looks like a much more shortwave system. And then interestingly enough here, when I look at this system, this setup here, this is on the 6th. These two systems almost look like they're trying to phase, which would be really bad news if that were to come to fruition. These two look like they're almost in sync, so to speak. And we end up possibly getting a two-fronted system where we could get severe weather to the south and maybe a snowstorm more towards the northern states. Keep in mind, though, this is 264 hours out that we're looking at here. So we're going to have to watch that with great interest as well. And then we'll watch this exit, and then another storm system will fall in right behind it. And this will be a shortwave system that may bring some unsettled weather towards the eastern half of the country. When we go to 348 hours out, another system comes in, and another system right behind that. So we're still in some very active times here. It'll be nice to get. It doesn't really look like we're going to get a break, even though it would be nice. But at least the big cold blast for the time being, it looks like that's done. Will we see another one like that by the time the season's done? I doubt it. We'll see what happens, though. Because watch me say something like, oh yeah, it's not going to get cold like that again, and then all of a sudden it happens. Bet you guys would eat me alive in the comments. But that's what we're dealing with right now in regards to the vorticity. A lot of this stuff will probably look entirely different as time goes on. So just take some of this in with a grain of salt. Let's look at the temperatures actually. Let's get a good look at the values. So as we can see now, a lot more places have started to warm up. Towards the southeast, we're above freezing finally. And over towards the northern tier states, a lot of us are finally starting to get out of the negative temperatures at long last. I'm pretty sure you guys said this couldn't have happened soon enough. But we'll move this forward. And this is heading into Tuesday. By this point, almost everybody is at least in the teens, if not higher, even in the northern tier states. Then we'll see that next little small push of cold air come back in. But even so, it's a shadow of what we were once dealing with. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are saying, I'll take it. And as we head towards New Year's Eve, You can see that warm sector, these little spots towards the southeast where these warm sectors are starting to develop once again, towards southern Texas, southern Georgia, southern Alabama here. We'll have to watch these guys closely because that's where I think the severe weather potential may be the highest with those next few storm systems. And then we'll kind of watch this little battle develop between the warm and cold air. Warm air will make a surge, cold air will push back, and it's where these two meet is where we will have the potential for the most disturbed weather here. See these fronts come through, and then the cold warm air will start to push right back over and over again. So potential for severe weather is going to be back in play undoubtedly at this point. There's no question in my mind about that. Last thing to really look at here is going to be the what the actual precipitation may look like at this point in time. One thing to keep in mind here is the simple fact that this will end up looking different than what we're seeing right now, given the fact that we're looking out as far as we are. So this is our Clipper system that moves through. This is heading into Wednesday. Then here's our next big storm system. Starts to pull some Gulf moisture in. In this area, I'm a little bit concerned with the potential for flooding, because it seems like that moisture plume just trails over the same areas over and over again. And there could be a point where if those showers and thunderstorms were heavy enough and were to continue training over those same areas, flooding would be a possibility. And then we see yet another low pressure come over right around New Year's Eve, hitting the same areas over and over. And then after that, another system comes in. Hopefully by this point, some of these areas will have a chance at drying out. But right around this area, whenever we'll start to see excessive rainfall in multiple systems over these regions, that's when you always have to be concerned with a little bit higher, with a little bit more of a flood threat. We'll have to see what happens with that there. But you can see this big line of storms that comes through. This has bow echo written on it to me right now as it stands. We'll have to see how that progresses as time goes on, but the potential is definitely there from what I can see on the models here. We watch this next system come in, rolls its way to the north, draws more Gulf moisture. Showers and thunderstorms are becoming a little bit more prevalent towards the south and eastern half of the country here. And we'll just watch more and more of these shortwave systems roll through all the way up to the end of the model run here. So a lot going on here. A little less cold though now, starting to lean more towards severe weather. A couple of smaller snow events are possible over towards the northern tier of the country. We'll have to see how these progress, whether they strengthen or not further than what we're seeing with the GFS right now. We aren't really going to know for sure until we can start comparing them to models like the Euro and some of the others as we get closer towards the short range. But until we get to that point, that's the end of the video. This has been Ty, Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys tomorrow night probably. You guys have a good one and take care. Happy holidays, by the way.